This is the Pennsylvania Rock Show, where Pennsylvania's underground rock hits hard. Since 2004, we've been unleashing unsigned bands, ripping riffs, and voices that won't be silenced. Radio, podcast, streaming, anytime, anywhere. No polish, no limits, just real rock. Strap in and turn it up. And now, here's your host, Bill Damiano.
Tonight on the Pennsylvania Rock Show, we're pulling back the curtain on the real life of a working musician. Not just the social media version, not the backstage VIP fantasy, but the version built on long nights, cheap motels, broken down vans, sketchy load-ins, and doing whatever it takes to keep the music alive. Our guest is Mike Metzger, better known to many as Memphis Mike, a musician who's lived the grind firsthand. From biker bars to wedding gigs, dive clubs to indie labels, Mike has seen every side of the music business that most people never hear about. The triumphs, the disasters, the strange gigs, the unforgettable crowds, the road stories, the band drama, and yes, probably more drummer stories than anyone should legally be allowed to tell. This episode is for every musician who's hauled their gear through the rain, played to 5 people like it was 5,000, slept in a van, survived bad promoters, and kept showing up because music wasn't a hobby. It was a life. So crack open a drink, turn it up loud, and get ready for some real talk from the trenches of rock and roll. This is the Pennsylvania Rock Show, episode number 829. And with me for this episode is Mike Metzger. And I will have him on your screen in just a moment because I did not have my buttons ready. There we go. So I messed up one word in the intro, and then I was so excited that it was working that I forgot to get the buttons working. But with me now is Mike Metzger.
It happens. What's up, Bill?
Not much. So I took that email that you sent me, and I added some of my own words, and then I may have dropped it into AI, which will get me yelled at by my daughter. But
get over it. It's a tool.
Yes. So
hold on, real quick on the whole AI thing. I mean, yes, people are horrible AI. It's killing the world. Okay, I got news for you.
Everything we do.
The only reason that we think it's killing the world is because the media tells us that it's killing the world. Guess what? AI has been around really as long as I can remember. Okay. My dad was a doctor, and a good friend and mentor of his was one of the early guys in AI, a guy by the name of Dr. Jack Myers. And back in the early 70s, he started working on artificial intelligence for medical diagnostics. And that's been commonplace for decades. Now, what people don't like is the data centers. And there's no reason to like those because it's just rich guys trying to get stuff for free. All right. And they don't care what happens to the area around it as long as they're making coin.
Right.
So, that's what has people riled up. All that and the fact that most of the quote unquote AI art just looks like crap. and that's more user error than anything else. But so I'll stop with my leftist ranting.
All right, so let's talk about some of the stuff that was in that intro.
Sure.
So first of all, lifelong gigging musician. Tell us a little
Since
bit.
I was 13.
Tell us a little bit about that background.
Well, like I said, I've always been a musician. It's like I started to teach myself to play piano when I was about 3 or 4. And my parents were like, "Oh, prodigy." No, just curious. And so they forced me into lessons. And after a couple of years of that, I just hated it. When you tell a kid they have to do something, they don't want to do it. But I always loved music. So I went from piano on to violin. And I went from violin to cello to bass to trumpet to tuba to drums. And my first drum set, as much as I loved it, I learned early on I will never be a drummer. All right. And the world is a happier place without me playing drums. But I was homesick one day because I was always sick when I was a kid. And there was an old Zorro movie on. And I'm hearing the flamenco guitar and I'm going, I really like that. That's cool. And Dad had an old beat up acoustic sitting around. So I picked up, tried to make some noise on it. And it sounded every bit as bad as one would expect, you know. And within a few weeks, it's like, I figured out how to tune the thing. And Dad had an old teach yourself folk guitar book. So I started teaching myself chords. And Dad's like, well, the kid seems pretty serious about this one. Let's get him some lessons. It's like, oh, God, don't ruin it. And I started trying to take lessons. And the guy that I took lessons from, Kevin Still, we're still great friends all these years later. And I mean, I was far more advanced than he was ready for. He taught me a couple of things, and he made me use a pick, which my hand still fights. Taught me a lot of ways to tune a guitar. He taught me some rudimentary finger picking. Then I've been on my own ever since. Now, back then, this was the late 70s. So, disco was around, but, hard rock was still pretty big. And I was really into Jimi Hendrix. So I became the local kid that could play Hendrix stuff. When people first started talking about Guitar Zach 20 or so years ago, I was like, yep, been there, done that. I feel bad for the kid. I already know how his life's going to go.
So let me cut you off for 1 second because like the terrible DJ I am. At the top of the show, we heard from A Common Crown and their song Slow Down. I wanted to throw that out there before I forgot. Sorry, keep going.
Not a worry. Anyway, like I said, every now and then I get dragged out to different bars to go up and do like Hey Joe or something like that. And I've always been a ham. Put me on stage, I'm in my natural element. And then I started getting more and more into punk rock, and really no one wanted to hear punk rock, but we did it anyway. When I was about 16, one of my punk rock buddies had started a rockabilly band. I'm like, what the hell is rockabilly? What? He goes, you like the Stray Cats. I'm like, no, I don't like the Stray Cats. I know. Oh, rockabilly guy doesn't like the Stray Cats? But there was another band, the Blasters, that I heard a DJ at a wedding I was helping set up for. He played some Blasters. I'm like, ooh, I like that. All right, that kind of has punk rock energy, but it's kind of bluesy. Ooh, I'm down with this. So my friend, he's trying to explain the whole rockabilly thing. Oh, like Carl Perkins, Eddie Cochran, Jerry Lee, that kind of stuff. I said, oh, like they play on the one country oldie station on Sunday nights, because we used to get a station out of West Virginia that played that stuff. He says, yeah, like this. Oh, I can do that. No problem. So we started regularly playing like, the animal clubs, the Moose, the Elks, the Eagles, all that, the VFWs, whatever redneck joint or biker joint would have us, and we always got paid. It was like, okay, back then we used to make $50 each a night minimum. So figure between 50, 75 bucks a night. When I had my first apartment when I was 18, my rent was $150 a month, all utilities included. So I could do like 2 shows and pay my rent for the month, and everything else was just mine. I'm like, okay, this is a lot better than working a day gig. All right. It's a hell of a lot better. So I just kept doing that.
Well, since you're talking about shows you've played, have you did you have any nightmare shows?
Oh, everyone has those, but I mean, the worst show that we ever did, there was this redneck joint. It was opening up out in the middle of just nowhere. All right. I mean, I can't even remember the name of the joint, but we played to the bartender. That was it. And back then, the average gig was either 9 to 1, 9 to 2, or 10 to 2. So, these weren't, doing a 45-minute set. This was 4 or 5 hours of playing music. And that bartender heard every damn song that we knew, you know. And it's like, he's like, you guys are really good. I just wish there was a crowd. It's like, yeah, well, I'm sure, but remember, we're still getting paid, pal. You know, so don't think that because no one came to your joint that we ain't getting paid. And yeah, we got to be, like I said, you know, that was never the only time I ever had an issue with not getting paid was when I was in the Rowdy Bovines. We were playing some joint up in Beaver County somewhere, and the place was it was tough to find. And remember, this was before cell phones and GPS and all that. So, you know, we had to go by directions, you know, written on a piece of paper. And you know, it took us a while. We found the place, and we started like 15 minutes late. So we played over an extra half hour. And so at the end of the night, you know, everything's all loaded out, the crowd's gone and everything. And we're going to settle up with the club owner. And he says, well, you guys started late. Like, yeah, and we also played over. What's your point? Well, I'm not paying you. Like, well, the hell you're not. And typical little bar owner, you know, thinking he's a tough guy. He's got a couple chicks with him that, you know, coke whores, and he's trying to impress them. And I'm like, yeah, no, you're paying us. So I just walk behind the bar, reach up to the top shelf, grab a bottle, smash it, pay us. What the hell are you doing? Grab another bottle, smashed it, pay us. Oh, you'll never play here again. Dude, you're trying to rip us off. Why the hell would we want to play here again? Grab another bottle, smash, money now. And it's like, so I mean, he's just, you know, throwing cash at us. It's like, see, that's all the hell you had to do. You just lost a couple $100 worth of booze because you were trying to impress these skanky chicks. What the hell's wrong with you? You know? And I have no idea if his joint's still open or not. Don't really care. I've never played there again. And guess what? Here it is 35 years later. I can gig whenever I want to. I don't gig much anymore just because I'm getting old and don't care to. I've done north of 6,000 shows on 3 continents. I mean, it's like, I'm not that worried about it, really.
Hey, Mike, we're going to take our first music break. And
okay.
We're going to do They Live.
Hey, I know that song.
And when we come back, I'll let you talk about it.
Sure.
And we'll be right back.
Right back.
Hey, it's Bill. We are headed into segment number 2 of the Pennsylvania Rock Show. With me tonight is Mike Metzger, also known as Memphis Mike. Getting a kind of road stories and a little bit of history of rock and roll. We just heard from Losers After Midnight, They Live. Mike, who was in that band with you?
That was yours truly. On drums, an old friend of mine, George Borden, who the metalheads out there might know from the band Aftershock. And I've known George Hell since we were kids. And on bass, that was Joe Brady, who's a mutual friend of George and mine. And the whole Losers After Midnight thing came together. You know, Joe and I love old horror films. We love old punk rock. We love old rock and roll, old honky tonk, whatever. And we started talking about maybe recording something sometime. And so we got together, worked up a couple things, and went in the studio and recorded a 4-song EP. And it caught on pretty well. People really liked it. So that was in 2014, I think it was. Yeah, I still had a mohawk then. And it went over well enough that we went back in 2016 and did an entire album's worth of stuff. And They Live was on that. And I don't really know a good way to describe the band, but it's kind of like horror punk is how I've heard people call it. I've heard it called post punk and horror punk and whatever. But to quote the late great Sam Phillips, it's all just rock and roll, man. I don't get the having to put titles and genres on everything. It's if it rocks, it rocks. If it moves, it moves. If you don't dig it, don't dig it. If you do dig it, dig it. Pretty simple. But
So,
yeah, it's like Joe's better known for playing with his band Scanner. They're a punk band from York, and they've been around forever. All right. And like I said, George, he's better known for playing heavy metal, even though he did play in my band, the Tremblers, for a short period about 20 years ago, because I go through drummers like most people go through socks. So
let's talk about it a little bit. I'm assuming there's some band drama in
oh
there.
no, it's not drama. It's just drummers. Drummers are really some of my favorite people in the world. I can't think of anyone I would rather go out drinking with than a drummer. Okay. But drummers are a different breed. And the drummers will probably agree with this. All right. And let's be honest, they have more gear to carry usually than most. So they're never on time. All right. And there's always going to be some drama with them loading in and loading out. I've never seen it not happen. They're always too damned loud, and I play loud. So here's the problem with guitar players and drummers. Okay, cymbals invade the sonic space that a guitar usually resides in. So you've got a little clash there. All right. The bass player might be complaining, but no one's ever paid attention long enough to know if they are. I say this as a sometime bass player. Okay. Most of the 80s, I was known as a bass player. When I was doing session work, and I've done session work off and on since 84. And I've done more session work as a bassist. When I was doing session work down outside of Nashville, I was mostly doing writer demos, and they needed a bass player. Sure, I'll play it. How much you paying me? Okay, and because it's show business, kids. It is a business, and if you treat it like a business, you'll do all right. And so it's I had my union card in case anybody got uppity about that. I can say, yep, got my union card. So give me them union wages. Thank you. And, the musicians union is, unless you are working in the higher echelons, of studio work or touring, the union card doesn't do much for you. If you're playing bars, no, it ain't gonna do anything for you. But if you're in Nashville, it pays to have one. If you're in LA, it pays to have one. New York, hit or miss. Vegas, you definitely need one. But it's madness. But like the drummers, like I said, best drummer story. All right. There's a drummer I worked with down in Australia, Brian Francis. Brian's nuts. I love Brian. And we were doing a show in Sydney, and we run into an American expat. And he invites us to a party at his place afterwards. Nobody else wanted to go, just me and the drummer. So we have the rental car that our tour manager had rented with his wife's credit card. Long story short, a few dings later, courtesy of the drummer, because we were speeding up and down residential roads and spinning around in the middle of the street and doing stupid things, few dings, a few $100s later in repairs, and being yelled at by the tour manager and his wife, But Brian and I have never worked with a drummer that gets me as much as Brian does. When we recorded the Seven More to Go album, Brian was up visiting from Australia, and we were talking, and he had never been in a recording studio before. I said, well, it's time to pop your cherry. So I called up Dave Granati and said, hey, what you doing this evening? He says, nothing. I said, you want to make some money? Of course you. So I take Brian on out there, and we were just going to horse around a little bit. We ended up tracking like 16 songs in 3 hours. We would have got more done, but Brian actually had to do a second take on a song, which just kind of, threw things for a little bit. And he and David got on like gangbusters. David can tell you the less PG-13 version of the story. How's that? All right. I'll try to keep it clean, but yeah, we had fun, then afterwards, Brian and I hit a little old man bar, and he's loud, and Australians cuss more than anyone you will ever meet. And they are eloquent with it, but very loud. And so, we almost got thrown out of the bar, and not the first time I've been thrown out of a bar. It won't be the last time either. But, it's just how it goes,
Let me ask you my unofficial build a scene question.
Sure.
And I feel like since you've gigged on 3 continents, you
Yep.
probably could cover this a little differently. So the question is, what is the best pizza you've had because you're a musician?
The best pizza. Well, my wife will tell you it's the pizza I make. My personal favorite is Belisario's out here in the North Hills. I will say this: if you are in England and someone suggests going for pizza, run the other way. Okay. I have, there might be good pizza somewhere in England. I've just never found it. All right. I was splitting time between here and Leicester for a while, and there was a pizza joint there called Vic and Tony's New York style pizza. I'm thinking, okay, let's give it a shot. Oh my God. This was cardboard and ketchup with some kind of sausage on it and jalapenos. And I'm like, dude, I used to live in New York City. If you served this to someone up there, they'd probably shoot you. What the hell is this? Now, where I lived in Leicester, it was really weird because I called our neighborhood Little America, because up at the end of our, okay, if you went up our street to the main road was, can't think of what it's called now. We were on Evesham and it went up to whatever. Anyway, there was a KFC, there was a Blockbuster Video. Go down the street a little bit, there was a Papa John's.
That's not pizza either.
Not in most people's mind. I'll agree with you on that. A Subway had just opened up, and if you went further down towards the city center, there was a Pizza Hut. And sad to say, the Pizza Hut was the best pizza I ever had in England or anywhere in the UK, which should tell you something about British pizza. Now, I had some decent pizza in Australia, but they had no idea what pepperoni was, which threw me. So they said, we can put salami on it. Sure, I like salami, you know, and I'll let you know, salami goes well on a pizza. The sauce was pretty good. It wasn't the best, no. The dough was nice. The cheese was good quality. The toppings were all fresh and good quality. It's just I would have rather had a pepperoni pizza, but they were like, "What's pepperoni?" And I'm like, "Pepperoni, Italian sausage. You can get pepperoni." And they're like, "Salami? Sure, put that on." you know, because it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I wasn't going to argue with the guy. All right. Now, if any Americans go to Australia, I will forewarn you
Don't
about
eat
the
Vegemite.
hamburgers. Oh, I love no. I love Vegemite. I love Vegemite. Americans don't know how to use it. That's all. But be wary of the hamburgers. All right. They do weird things with hamburgers down there. They put a big, thick slice of beetroot on it. Beets don't belong anywhere near a goddamn hamburger. Okay. And I'm like, I've been in I'm what the hell is this? I take top and there's this big red thing. No, wrong. And I remember it was some little drive-up burger joint out in the country. And we're sitting at a picnic table near the place, having our lunch. And I see some stray dog. So I just take the beetroot off and I throw it to the stray dog. Stray dog walks up, sniffs it, walks the other way. And I'm like, see, there's no reason for this to be on there. This isn't food. So, no, none of this. So, anytime I ordered a burger in Australia, I always had to say, hold the beetroot, okay? I'm an American. We don't do that. What? Keep that red shit off there, okay? It doesn't need to be there. And it's to them, it's a national treasure. To an American, it's a nightmare. I mean, I've seen them put eggs on burgers and pineapple on burgers, and I'm sorry, I'm old school. Some things just don't belong on a burger. All right, it's like, about as weird as I'm going to get. I like barbecue sauce, onions, and hot peppers on mine. And yeah, that's weird to some folks, but for the most part, give me some ketchup and some pickles and onions, and I'm good.
Hey,
But
so I'm gonna stop you there. We're gonna take our second break. We're gonna
second break,
hear
woohoo!
we're gonna hear a Trouble by the Jaded Lips, a fairly new song from them, and also
Bring it on, Jaded Lips.
We're gonna do some reggae from
Ooh.
MSJR, and it's called "I Am Here." And we'll be right back.
All righty.
Hey, we're back on the Pennsylvania Rock Show, episode number 829. If you're just tuning in, with me tonight is Memphis Mike, and yeah, him. He's pointing to himself. We just heard from the Jaded Lips and MSJR, and we're going to talk for a few more minutes Um, let's see, Mike. I asked you about road stories, um,
Yeah.
and nightmare shows and drummers. Um, are there any like any stories about being out there and grinding that you'd like to share?
Oh shit. How much time you got? Uh,
We have about 8 minutes.
okay. Well, okay. Give you another Australia story. We were heading down. Well, the band didn't go with me. This was the second tour, and I just went by myself and used Australian rhythm section. But I actually had to get a work visa for this one. The first time I just kind of snuck through, but they were really tightening down on this stuff. So I got my work visa and everything. Cost me $20, and I was talking to the customs agent, and he sees my guitar and everything. He's checking the paperwork. Yep, everything's good. And he tells me, he goes, do you know Daryl Hyam? I said, the British guitar player? Yeah. He says, yeah, he just tried to come in yesterday. And he thought he was going to sneak in without a work permit. So we had to send him back the same day.
Hmm.
Now, you have to understand how long and evil that flight is. I mean, from the West Coast of the US to Australia, you're talking about 16, 17 hours. From England, add another 10 on that. All right. And I can just imagine spending 20 hours on a plane and getting
And
turned
then
right back
doing it
around
again.
and sent back because you didn't spend $20 to get a little stamp on your thing that says, yeah, you can go there and make music. All right. But coming back, I'd flown into LAX, which is really like my least favorite airport in the US. Something about that place rubs me wrong. And so I had to, check my guitar and my luggage. And someone, as it turned out, between checking it in and it getting to the plane, someone managed to steal it. And I was in the airport for a couple hours waiting for the flight. And I hear my name over the intercom, Mike Metzger, white courtesy phone, please. Mike Metzger, white courtesy phone. So I go and pick it up. We have found your guitar. I didn't know it was missing. What the hell's going on? So I go to the security. Go, is this yours? Yes. What the hell happened to it? And somehow someone snagged it, and I almost lost my guitar. So yeah, that's one of those headache things. I mean, yeah, there's tons and tons of horrible stories about, I remember I was on tour with Danny Kaye and the Nightlifers out of Baltimore, and the bass player got sick halfway through the tour. And I mean, I haven't seen a man this sick not in the hospital. I mean, he had like 104 fever. He's white as a sheet, just pouring down sweat. I mean, we're thinking he's going to die. All right. And we're riding in this beat up old van, and we were down in Tennessee, I think it was. And we had to drive him back up to his house in Virginia and then take his van and get me back here to Pittsburgh. And then Danny had to drive back to Baltimore. And it was like, oh my goodness. It was not a good tour. It was one of those tours where everything that could go wrong did. But I always like to think that things happen for a reason. Had the tour continued, the second half of the tour was going to be in the Midwest. So we're talking Indiana, Illinois, Missouri. And the house that we were supposed to stay at in Indiana, got hit by a tornado and got blown away.
Eesh.
So we kind of lucked out on that one. I mean, it's like, look, I remember looking back at the paperwork, and between income and expenses, I netted $12 for the tour. You know, look, in the black, not the red. Wasn't rich, but got my bills paid on the road. So it's like, couldn't complain too much, and I wasn't blown away by a tornado. So
That's always a plus.
yeah, and the whole thing is you can eliminate most road problems by planning ahead. All right. And like I said, it is show business, so treat it like a business. I mean, call it Rock Band LLC. Set it up like a little business. Get yourself a business credit card for those emergencies that do come up. All right, and they will. All right. Do not go on the road if you don't have health insurance, because something will happen. All right. I mean, I remember driving to Tennessee and stopped to get a burger outside of Cincinnati. By the time I was about 10 miles outside of Louisville, Kentucky, the food poisoning had started. And I played restaurant roulette from Louisville down to Linden, Tennessee. I have never been that sick in my life. I don't care to ever be that sick in my life ever again. And the last place that you want to be that kind of sick, I mean, both ends going like a volcano, is in a rest stop. You don't want that. But that's part of life on the road. These things do happen. So be smart about what you eat, be smart about what you drink. It all looks and sounds like fun. And that time on stage is. The rest of it can be a pain in the ass. All right. And just you have to expect certain things to go wrong. I have never done a tour where nothing went wrong. All right. That's just never happened.
So Mike, we have about a minute.
Okay.
I do want to ask you if about an unforgettable crowd. Was there a crowd that you still remember to this day?
Oh yeah. This would be my largest crowd. And that wasn't what was so memorable. My largest crowd was at a beach festival in Australia, and I headlined to 60,000 people. Now, a crowd that big with the stage lights, you can't see past the third or fourth row anyway. So you have no idea how many people are there. But there was a little girl. She was a little indigenous girl, Aborigine. And I have never seen a person have that much fun at a show. I mean, she was dancing and just having a heck of a time. And what I know is, a lot of the indigenous folks really have no money. So her family obviously scrimped to come to this show. So I, go over to the side of the stage and told my stage manager, get some merch for them, have them meet me backstage after the show. All right. And, and I mean, this little girl and her family, I mean, they made the show for me. Okay. They had so much fun that it made me give an even better show. All right. And that's one of the things. I mean, Australian audiences are really some of my favorite on the planet. All right. I mean, they love a good live show. And they let you know. But seeing that kid and her family, I've never seen anyone have that much fun at a show. And I'll carry that memory with me till I'm dead and gone. It was that good of a show. And I've done north of 6,000 shows. To remember any of them, it can take some work. But that one I will always remember. So thank you, Australia. Y'all were fun.
Hey, Mike. So
Yeah.
we are at the end. I have two more
At the
tracks
end.
to play. We're gonna play "Revenge Tastes Sweet" by Storms Within, and we're gonna end things with D. Gregorio's song "Detour," and
Detour.
off of her upcoming album called Directionless, which hasn't been released yet. But
And folks, buy it the day it comes out. All right. Get it. Pre-order that thing. All right. It's not cheap to record. Okay. So show the love. Show them the love. And who knows? Maybe later on this year when I get dragged back into the studio, because yeah, that's happening. Maybe you'll order some of my stuff. Who knows?
Hey, Mike, thanks for hanging out with me this evening.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
And everyone, make sure you can find Mike on Facebook. It's been on the video all show. But for those of you just listening, it is Memphis Mike 66 at Facebook.
Sounds right.
I checked it first.
Oh, okay. Yep. And you can find me on YouTube too. Memphis Mike Official. Boom.
So we're gonna head off into the evening. We're gonna hear that Storms Within track followed by D. Gregorio, and make sure you join me each and every Monday for a new episode. Don't forget that Music from 412 has partnered with Dressy Entertainment to have Dressy give away 2 tickets to select shows that they are producing. And it's real simple. All you have to do is go to musicfrom412.com/contest, click on the show you're interested in attempting to win tickets to, and follow the directions. Even though you're giving us an email address, it's only used to tell you that you've won and to contact you about receiving your tickets. Each time a contest is over, we delete all that information and is not used for anything else. So once again, Music from 412 partnered with Dressy Entertainment, giving you free tickets to select Dressy Entertainment shows.